GBNEWS.com, and we'll show you how to cast a vote.
Lots of you have been getting in touch with your snowy pictures. Here's Richard in Furness.
No, this is Richard and Kay in Dalton-in-Furness. There you go, that's our back garden. I know that because it's my brother and sister-in-law.
Oh, I see. Oh, cheat.
There
No,
you
but
go.
that's a lovely picture,
So that's
actually.
their back garden.
This one is Marianne in Doncaster.
Oh,
You've got a good
plenty
covering
down
of
there.
snow there.
And here's one of our headline makers, trees.
Oh,
Whelan.
with a little person in front of it.
Oh, that's
Helping
very,
to decorate.
very sweet.
That's nice.
Very sweet. You've got to have a good tree because your husband's a tree surgeon.
No, it's plastic, of course.
It's not.
It is.
What? That's appalling. That's a scandal.
Well,
I can't be
Shock.
dealing with doing all that, hoovering up the needles all the time, and the baubles have to stay, as you can see.
I can
yes,
see the baubles are
Baby
high.
and cat
Yes.
height. That's
Maybe in
it.
cat. Fair enough. As you can see, Ella Whelan's here alongside columnist Emma Wolfe. Good morning to you both. Ella, let's start on COP28. Was sort of like it's turned into a business meeting, hasn't it?
Yeah, so, I mean, this piece in The Telegraph has the headline, "Why go to Davos when you've already seen everyone at COP28?" which is true. I mean, it went from, in previous years, well, it started off as about 8,000. It's now this year over 100,000 attendees, many of whom might be superficially there to talk about the environment, but are really there to...
A lot of jet fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Are really there to, to crack some deals. Obviously, there is sort of this controversy around the UAE government and its sort of what the BBC has found out with sort of slightly backroom deals around fossil fuels and things that obviously most people think shouldn't be happening at a green convention. But it's also the case that it's a sort of a posturing event. So you have, for example, American billionaires holding receptions on their super yachts with, as the Telegraph reports, vegan canapes and champagne to try and...
Makes up for the diesel. That
Exactly. Woo people to their cause. But, you don't want to be silly about these things. Obviously, Rishi Sunak's gone there. He's got this £11 billion deal for wind farms on Dogger Bank, which is off the Yorkshire coast. Politicians should talk to business. No one's saying that shouldn't happen. All of that needs to have a sort of healthy relationship. But it pretty much seems like it's become a sort of a networking event, a business party, but with attendees professing to us plebs at home that this is the most important, environmentalist political event of the year, and it just doesn't ring very true when you see them, quaffing champagne on yachts.
It sticks in the craw a bit, that, doesn't it?
Just slightly, yeah.
And it's interesting to see Sunak being called a hypocrite, but really, there's so much hypocrisy going on at COP28, and I wonder, really, is it just a gimmick? Because, we had all the pledges coming out of COP26 in Glasgow, all the pledges coming out of, was it Egypt last year, COP27? Do we need a global jolly on this scale of over 100,000 delegates? Yeah, we can criticise Sunak and the King and Cameron for all flying on separate jets. I mean, that's not going to wreck or mend the planet, however they get there. But in terms of the scale of people going out there and the pledges that come out, and really what is followed up, what it's actually followed through on in terms of these pledges.
A lot of the
Kind
companies,
a green Davos,
let alone the politicians, just by attending, you're sort of greenwashing, aren't you?
And of course they have to go and they have to be seen to be there, and Starmer's there as well, and they have to do all that and meet the people, and it's soft power and it's shaking hands and the coffee, the water cooler moments. But I think when it becomes like this, and every year, it's not a sort of 5-yearly event, is it? This is happening every year. It seems a little bit more action, maybe, and maybe some fewer words.
Yeah, I would agree.
Talking of words, Emma, tell us about the best way nowadays to read a novel or read any book.
It's a bit couplist, but yeah, this is in the Daily Mail, a fun article actually about Peter Crouch, the footballer, and his wife Abby, who you wouldn't necessarily, she's a former model, you wouldn't necessarily have thought they were the biggest readers in the world, but apparently they read novels together. The same novel, they read it at the same time together. So they both get a copy of the same book, and on their sun lounger, they will read a thriller or whatever at the same time together.
And not just together, but every page they read together.
Yeah, and he will say, I'm just nipping to the loo, wait for me, and then they will carry on reading at the same pace.
They treat it like they're binging a Netflix
Almost
series.
like they're watching a movie together, yeah, which I think is a bit weird, because what if you read it different? I mean, many people read fast, some people read slow.
Well, they don't. They won't turn the page until the other one's ready.
That's ridiculous.
It's weird.
I think it's a bit odd.
But they're not the only people.
And
who do
Giles
it.
Brandreth and his wife also read, but listen to how they read a novel together. She reads the paperback, tears the page out. This is Michelle. She reads tears the page out and hands it to Giles Brandreth, who then reads it and chucks it in the recycling bin. So they read the same copy of a paperback book at the same time, but she sort of hands on the page.
That's ridiculous. And that's incredibly wasteful.
It's
Well,
weird.
they get rid of the book. If it's a hardback that they like, they both buy they buy a copy of the hardback and keep it. But mostly, they recycle the book as they're reading it. I mean, lots of thrillers and lots of kind of modern novels you maybe wouldn't keep anyway. It's sort of wasteful, but it's also quite weird that he's handing on the page. Yeah.
It's very weird.
People and their reading
to that
habits.
extent.
I prefer reading alone, frankly.
I prefer reading alone because I have, I want to have my own relationship with the book. And also, any time I've ever got my husband to read a book that I have loved, you get kind of angry when I peer over and see that he's at that point. And I think, oh, well, you're not crying. You're not. Why aren't you feeling this? Yeah, you don't get it. Oh, leave it. And so there's always that tension in couples of competition. You who likes the best things, and I think there's a cause for marital disruption.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's quite unusual to want to read the same books.
To read the same books. I mean, people have very, very different tastes as well. Men traditionally don't read novels as much as women. They read more kind of factual, historical stuff. Frankly, I live with a 3-year-old, so I spend most of my time reading The Tiger Who Came to Tea and Peppa Pig and,
Well, maybe we should tear the pages.
The Forgetful. I would happily tear the pages out, Stephen, and never, ever read them again.
That just reminds me of that scene from Friends where Joey is very upset about what's happening in Little Women. He's getting really, really upset. And so he puts the book in the freezer.
Yeah.
Brilliant idea.
Why?
To stop the action.
Oh,
you put a book in the freezer, it stops everything. Oh, I love it. Love it.
Let's stick with a lighter theme, Alicia, because Tony Bellew is in the jungle, along with our Nigel.
Yeah.
But his family are voting for him, or have been voting for him, to do the trials.
Yeah, talking about families, I think this is a really funny story. So, his wife is quoted as saying, Rachel is saying that their 3 sons, Corey, Kobe and Carter, are all sort of teenagers, have been delighting in watching their father go through some quite difficult trials. And she, basically, the reason I like this article is she's just completely rinsing him and taking the mick out of him in the Sunday Mirror, talking about the fact that he's usually a very fussy eater and doesn't like textures and complains about food and stuff like that. But as she says, having now drunk a blended bull's penis, she's not going to take any of his complaints at the dinner table any longer. But I just think she says, we love to watch him suffer. And I think in this, there's so much spin around celebrities and there's so much nonsense and they lie so much. It's just quite refreshing to have a normal family say, yeah, we love to watch Dad suffer. Yeah. Because wouldn't we all? I mean, if our partners were in the jungle, you'd want them to not, be too mentally tortured. But I'd like to have a bit of fun. Spiders down their knickers, make them scream.
Would you?
Well, just, because you're sat at home having all the sort of having to deal with the boring social media and all the rest of it. I'd like to, really make them work for their fees.
Well, that's the secret of the programme, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go. Dear me. Emma, we've got to finish off with the weather in the Star.
Yeah, I can't resist a weather story. Yeah, well, we've been hearing all morning on the weather forecast, and obviously this cold snap is set to stay. It's now raining as well in London, which is sort of a pleasant twist. I was saying to the cabbie, oh, right, well, the rain presumably means it's going to warm up, and he said, no, it's going to be cold like this. And the Star, the front page, is this polar freeze, and they're basically saying it's going to be freezing like this and really bitter all over the country until right up to the new year. Yeah. So that's something we can look forward to. Obviously, Cumbria police have declared a major incident. One homeless man who's been sleeping in his car elsewhere in the country was found dead, frozen in his car. He was offered shelter, but refused it. And terribly sad, but, from the December the 16th to the 30th, there's going to be colder interludes with a greater chance of longer cold spell later in the period. But then again, this weather, your weather forecaster there was saying it's actually in sort of towards Easter that you get the really cold weather. Goodness knows what's ahead for us.
You always forget that it gets worse in the new year. I always think December is awful, and then February comes around and you think, I can't take any more of this.
More of this.
I know, you just expect it all to be over by Christmas. Don't you?
And
Well, it won't be.
Are you sending Christmas cards or are you just going to WhatsApp greetings? Apparently, according to John Lewis, here in the Daily Star as well, they say only 1 in 3 people will post fewer cards this Christmas. No, 1 in 3 people will post fewer cards. Most people will send a short festive greeting on WhatsApp to their WhatsApp groups.
No.
Yeah, I tend to get a little festive photo of the kiddo standing by the tree and send that round, but I haven't done cards for a good few years.
I love post. I love post. I love
I think everybody likes receiving
But I
them.
don't send it.
Sending them is another thing.
OK, let's get a check on the weather for you.
that warm.